Good morning. Welcome to San Damiano Retreat and the Stations of the Cross. As in everything else this past year, our San Damiano stations will look a bit different as well. My name is Jan Stegner, and I will be joined every week by a different guest to walk with you through the stations. On Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., you will have the opportunity to drive to San Damiano and listen to the tape version via your iPhone. There is about a 20 to 30 second time frame to walk from station to station, so you will have time to do your stations and walk safely from each one. Depending on the station chosen for the day, sometimes you will be invited to pray as you walk from station to station. This week, we welcome Father Rusty Shaughnessy, Franciscan friar here at San Damiano Retreat Center. The version of the stations we will be praying are the Stations of the Cross by Brother Michael Minton. During these stations, you will hear a bell at the end of each station, and this will signal for you to begin to move on to the next station. So we begin. Stations of the Cross. Jesus, our Lenten journey calls us to again turn from lives focused on ourselves and our own interests. It draws us to walk with you, including walking through areas of pain, fear, suffering, disappointment, and death. In our prayer, we long for the glorious triumph of Palm Sunday. Yet, we know to authentically pray with you, we have to find ourselves feeling alone, facing struggles, discerning choices, and gathering our strength to face our fears in order to follow in your footsteps. Station 1. Jesus is condemned to die. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Jesus is bound and standing before Pontius Pilate. His life, words, and deeds are being unfairly twisted by the chief priest. The betrayal, however, began the night before with a kiss from his friend Judas. Through the night, the lies were fanned to flame by the Sanhedrin, and in the morning, possibly the worst betrayal of all, Jesus is denied by Peter. After being asked by Pilate, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus simply says, "You say so," and was silent. Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas and handed Jesus over to be crucified.
Jesus, in our lives there are many disappointments. We have family and friends who forget us and turn against us. We have bodies that age and break. While different than you, we too are condemned to die someday. Help us to appreciate the life we have. Help us also to see how to give our lives, including our death, to you, so that our lives may be used to show God's love.
Jesus, as we try to walk in your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 2. Jesus takes up the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. After Jesus was taken away, he was tied to a pillar and whipped. When the soldiers were finished, they placed a crown of thorns on his head. Then, carrying the cross himself, Jesus was led to the place of execution.
Jesus, you tell us that to follow you, we too must pick up our cross. Our crosses are not always as easy to see as a cross made of wood. For us, it can be addictions to food, drugs, alcohol, sex. For us, it can be physical and psychological pain. For us, it can be being seen as a minority or an outsider. Help us to be honest about what our crosses are. Help us to know that in embracing them, we enter into your plan of salvation.
Jesus, as we try to walk in your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 3. Jesus falls the first time. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. The weight of the cross and the staggering emotional weight of condemnation and sentencing brought Jesus to his knees. The spectacle amused the soldiers and onlookers, who goaded and pushed him into resuming his painful journey.
Jesus, for many of us, we stagger also to the ground. There are days when many of us do not and will not know how to continue. Help us to know that in those times when we don't feel like going on, you are with us. Help us to encourage those around us.
Jesus, as we try to walk in your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 4. Jesus meets his mother. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Amid the dusty clamor of a morbid public execution, Jesus meets the eyes of his inconsolable mother. Both lamenting and faithful, she watches and follows his torturous stumbling walk to Golgotha.
Jesus, we will never know the intensity of that moment for you. We can imagine it as regret, shame, or maybe even comfort and encouragement. Possibly it was all of these as you looked into the only human eyes that had watched your whole life. While you may have wished to stay in that gaze, you had to move on. Help us to be comforted by the people who love us. Help us to survive the heartbreak of relationships that end.
Jesus, as we try to walk in your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 5. Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus carry the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. As Simon the Cyrenian came into town from the country, he came onto the scene. As an innocent bystander, he is forced to help Jesus carry the cross.
Jesus, it is often hard for us to ask for help. It's hard for us to welcome strangers and foreigners into our lives. Help us to not let our pride hinder those who would help us.
Jesus, as we try to walk your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 6. Veronica wipes the face of Jesus. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Slipping into the crowd, Veronica removes the veil from her head and without words wipes the face of Jesus. It is an act of courage and compassion, so graced with tenderness and respect that no one dares interrupt or interfere.
Jesus, many of us do not feel this kind of tenderness and respect. Most of us at some point have felt unloved and lonely. Help us to see and to be the silent gestures that encourage and show love.
Jesus, as we try to walk in your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 7. Jesus falls the second time. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. The path toward death, under the burden of pain and humiliation, brings Jesus to this dreaded moment of falling again.
Jesus, we don't like to fail. It's our collective consciousness to always win, to be able to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. Yet when we try so hard and continue to seem to fail, we lose heart. We see this so often now in people who are unemployed, or underemployed, or homeless. Help us to be humble and to have the courage to continue realizing that what looks like a dead end may be a new door.
Jesus, as we try to walk your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 8. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. The Gospel of Luke tells us a large crowd of people followed Jesus, including many women who mourned and lamented him. Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep instead for yourselves and for your children, for indeed the days are coming when people will say, 'Blessed are the barren, the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' At that time, people will say to the mountains, 'Fall upon us, cover us.'"
Jesus, so often you cross social barriers to be with women and others you weren't supposed to talk to. You did this always to help, heal, and liberate. Now at this moment, there seems to be nothing else you can do for them. For us, there are times when we can no longer help those around us. We have to let children, family, and friends make their own choices, good and bad. Help us to remember there's always another chapter in the story of our lives' journey, and that you are never finished with us.
Jesus, as we try to walk your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 9. Jesus falls a third time. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Jesus has done all that he can do. There is no more strength. He is utterly beaten and defeated.
Jesus, our world seems to be getting harder. We hear of violence, death, and disaster every day. So much so we begin to feel numbed, pulled to extremes, or paralyzed. We feel as if we have no idea where to begin to fix things. Help us to hold on to your gospel, your good news, that no matter what happens, you are on our side.
Jesus, as we try to walk your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 10. Jesus is stripped of his clothes. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Having reached the place of execution, there is one more insufferable humiliation inflicted upon Jesus. He is stripped of his clothes. He is naked before the soldiers and the crowd.
Jesus, when we are honest about our brokenness and sin, we often feel shame and guilt. Help us to move past shame and guilt to the point of knowing we have nothing to trust except your holding on to us.
Jesus, as we try to walk your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 11. Jesus is nailed to the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. When they came to the place called the Skull, they stretched Jesus out on the cross and crucified him. The Gospels tell us one of the other criminals crucified close to him said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus replied, "Amen, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise."
Jesus, I am not sure we would look away from this painful experience if we could. We seem to be wired for violence and scapegoating. Our history is possessed with overtones of imposed anguish. Help us to not be afraid to look at your wounds. Help us to see how you transform hate into love. Help us to see that transformation is all that will heal the world.
Jesus, as we try to walk your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 12. Jesus dies on the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Darkness over the earth, a few hours of agonizing, suffocating pain, and the veil of the temple is ripped apart. It is over. Jesus cries out in a loud voice, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. And that he breathed his last breath.
And we pause in this moment of silence.
Station 13. Jesus' body is taken down from the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Jesus was taken down from the cross by his friends. Their shock, sadness, and grief was only surpassed by the despair of a mother holding her dead son in her arms.
Jesus, at some point we all have to bury somebody we love. We have to hold the body of loss and death. Help us in these moments to grieve well.
Jesus, as we try to walk in your footsteps, help us on our way. Station 14. Jesus is laid in the tomb. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Late in the afternoon, a wealthy man from Arimathea, a disciple of Jesus, arrived. His name was Joseph. He went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Pilate granted his request. Joseph took the body and wrapped it in clean linens, put it in his own tomb, a tomb only recently cut into the rock, and rolled a large stone across the entrance. Then he went off.
In the Gospel of John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him. And apart from him, nothing came into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of the world. The light shone in the darkness. The darkness couldn't understand it nor put it out.
We tell this story in hindsight. We know the outcome. We know the tomb is empty. We know that darkness did not, does not, and cannot win.
As Christians, we look at the image of a broken, beaten, and utterly destroyed man, and we see life. We know the death of Jesus wasn't the end of the story. We know the tomb becomes empty.
We know, too, that brokenness, hurt, disillusionment, and death in our lives are also not the end of the story. We know this because Jesus walks with us too, and with him we live now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
A little something about the stations before we end today. The stations are a 14-step devotional to observe Jesus' last day on earth. They are used as a mini pilgrimage as a person moves from station to station. At each station, we recall and meditate on a specific event from Christ's last day on earth. The stations originated in pilgrimages to Jerusalem as a desire to reproduce the Via Dolorosa, where Jesus is believed to have walked to his death carrying the cross. In the late 1100s, Jerusalem fell to the Muslims. 40 years later, the Franciscans were allowed back into the Holy Land. The Franciscans received custody of the Holy Land to guard and promote the devotion of holy places. During the 15th and 16th centuries, the Franciscans began to build a series of outdoor shrines in Europe to duplicate the Holy Land. In 1686, Pope Innocent answered the Franciscans' petition and granted the Franciscans the right to erect stations within their churches. In 1731, Pope Clement extended to all churches the right to have stations erected within their churches, provided that a Franciscan friar create them. By the mid to late 1800s, the bishops of England were allowed to build them without intervention from a Franciscan priest. We thank you for joining us today. We wish you have a blessed week.